So hopefully you can all see that. And as I said, today we're going to be talking about market positioning. So I think it's worth, first of all, just covering what is market positioning. Well, it's a strategy to shape the consumer perception of a brand or a product, often relative to its competitors. And I want to give a very simple way of explaining this. And the one that I often use is supermarkets. Now, yeah, whatever industry you're in, you think actually you're all competing exactly the same, you're the same business. And with supermarkets, actually, all they do is sell food produce. But we do have an entire market that you might, where different brands are positioned differently. So this is quite contentious because people will argue with this with me, but I'm going to go Lidl, then Aldi, then probably something like Morrison's. Then I'm going to go Asda. This is where it gets complicated. Do we do Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's? That's what I'm going with. I put Sainsbury's slightly above Tesco's in my brand perception, remembering that, your brand, you don't own it as such. It's other people's perception of you. It's their feelings about you, and I guess it's your reputation in their own mind. Then from Sainsbury's we might go up to M&S. That's Valentine's Day, isn't it? When you're getting the meal deal from there, and when the mother-in-law is coming round, then I'm shopping in Waitrose. And that's sort of where your market positioning works. You can see where do you fit, and I often run this exercise with a company and say, look, if you were a supermarket, where would you sit? And there's nothing wrong with any of those. I don't shop in Waitrose very often, but I shop in the rest of them. And the in and out, they all serve a purpose. There's nothing wrong with where you are in the market, but deciding where you are in the market enables you to, ensure all of your marketing matches up with that. And the first thing you need to do with this is to understand who your ideal customer is. And then you can build out your brand positioning to speak directly to them. One of the first ways I like to do this is with some visual identity. So I don't think a logo makes or breaks a business, but I certainly think it can help form certainly that first impression. 2 weeks ago, I did a presentation. There's a YouTube link if anyone wants to watch it, on consistency. And one thing I was saying about brand identity and consistency is that it should be set up to meet your target audience. So we're going to meet Carter and Jones. These two guys, they've decided to set up a fancy sort of hand soap business. Yeah, and they need a logo. So there we go. They've got their Carter and Jones. But let's be honest, if that was written on one of those bottles, when you see it, you might think, don't know, does it look expensive enough? Oh, hang on a minute. Suddenly the price has gone up a couple of quid. And then before you know it, it's worth even more. And actually, if you saw these bottles almost side to side with that logo on, well, I'm certainly paying much more for the one at the bottom. And that's just purely based on changing the font. So looking at what market you're going for and ensuring your visual identity matches that is really key. And it's fairly simple. Like I say, understanding your ideal customer, understanding where you want to be perceived within the market, and then making sure all your visuals match. So that's just a simple example with a font, but of course you can look at it with your colors. What colors match up? How do you use imagery? Do you use sort of cartoon figures, or do you use high-end photography? Are you very casual and you do lots on your mobile phone, or are you always having a professional image? Do you just use black and white? You see that with quite a few high-end sort of companies. They love the black and white. It just screams a little bit of prestige. So once you've got your visual identity, then start to look into storytelling. Understanding your ideal customer. GoPro do this really well. They don't really talk about their product much. They more show people living their best life. And if you're an adventurer, then GoPro is the brand to buy into, because they get you, and it shows that their products can be used everywhere. So building up a story around what your product or service is, so that people really feel part of it. We all we all want to feel understood by brands that we buy from. You know, you don't just want to know that they can solve you. You want to feel like actually they really, really get me. And Nike have done this brilliantly. You know, they've used aspiration almost as a positioning strategy. You know, sports clothes now, actually, if you look at the majority of them, they're all very similar in the materials they use, you know, and there's not a lot separating you. But in a competitive market, actually, I'd say Nike almost a bit of a masterclass in marketing and the way, you know, you feel better wearing maybe their items. And that they ran some tests on, you know, people wearing different sports clothes and how they performed in the gym. And actually, there is a real benefit. If you're starting the gym, go out and buy yourself some really nice sports gear that you feel confident in, and you feel, you know, like yes, I'm a real sports person. You will perform better. There was a study. It's a minuscule percentage, but teams who wear red generally win more games. You know, it's just how it's done. So there is a psychological side to it, but they've used that to really add aspiration onto theirs. And I'm going to talk about something that I'm not an expert in, but actually it really amazes me. And that is handbags. Now I don't own many myself, but I get the difference between, you know, a 10-20 pound handbag and a 200 or 250 pound handbag. I can see how there's going to be a major difference in the quality and the standard of building it. But then it's when you move into the next level. Just by a show of hands, does anyone know what that bag is there? I'm guessing no. It's a Birkin. It's a Hermes Birkin. Now the thing about the Birkin bag, and I learned about this from a friend, you can't just buy one. You need to be invited to buy one. And that is why at the secondhand market, they tend to go for almost double the list price. You know, you've got these handbags here going for, you know, $30,000-$40,000. Now, you can go into the Hermes shop and buy lots of other products, but until you're a customer, and generally you've spent in the region of sort of $10,000 to $20,000, you're not even invited to have the option to view this range and buy a Birkin bag. So they have used that almost as their positioning statement, and they're so well, you know, everyone wants them because you can't get them. And there's a few celebrities who walk around with them, but I didn't know anything about Birkin, but I've learned about it more recently, and they have used that as part of their strategy, that it's so exclusive that actually it's made it, you know, desirable. And, you know, we like to think we buy rationally, but we don't. We buy emotionally. And, you know, you've seen that with the handbags, probably a great example. You know, Rolex are probably another example. Everyone think they make watches. They don't. They make luxury because there's no rational reason to spend that amount. But what we do is we try and, you know, justify it with the value and the way it makes us feel. And yeah, Birkin have done that really well. You can then also do this based on your sort of USP. So there's loads of different ways to find out what makes you stand out. Some of the big ones, I mean, FedEx, their original sort of slogan was, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. You know, they really did say, if it needs to be there, then we're the ones. Avis is a really interesting one. I actually think this is a bit of a genius slogan. You know, I think it was the early 60s. And Avis launched this campaign around "We Try Harder," and it was to do with the fact that Hertz were actually the biggest car rental company. Yeah, Avis was second, and you sort of think, well, if we're second, what do we do? You know, that's not a great slogan, isn't it? You know, we're not the best, but actually, what they're trying to say is actually we're willing to go the extra mile to provide an excellent service. And I often think you can use negatives as a positive within your marketing. You know, some of the famous ones are things like Stella, reassuringly expensive. You know, they've taken something that might be a negative and turned it into a positive. And Guinness, you know, good things come to those who wait. You know, you think a drink that takes ages to pour, this is a right pain. But actually, they've turned it round and made it a positive within their sort of marketing. So some ideas of what you can do to find your USP, and how some companies put it up there. Now, I very rarely advise people to compete on price. I think, certainly if you're B2B, I'd avoid it. It's only if you're selling specific products that other people can buy almost from any company. And I say we don't really care. Supermarket, we just want the food and we want it cheaper. So Aldi do this well, but they're putting right on their homepage, welcome to which is cheapest supermarket. They're putting price as their big USP and positioning themselves as the supermarket where you save money. Well, there's another one there. Netflix, a good one. So they're talking about availability. Watch anywhere, cancel anytime. Availability is a really good one. You see this with tickets for things like shows or concerts or festivals. That's why they do first release, second release, third release. It's almost nothing to do with the price, but it sounds great to say first release sold out. There was probably only 5 of them. But it sells out. And Glastonbury, don't get me wrong, fantastic festival, but it's just known that it sells out in minutes, and it's got that really prestigious sort of feel to being able to go that you were a lucky one. So look at what it is that you offer. This watch anywhere, cancel any time is great. Availability, Amazon done so well because whatever you want, you can pretty much have it next day. It might be that you serve a certain target area where you can actually get to someone that day. It can be speed. I know Neil, who's here, is very much into being able to get things to people quickly in a market, in the health market, where things are traditionally can be quite slow. So that's a real USP. Pelly cases, their durability, they're not the cheapest. In fact, their cases are quite expensive, but they come with a lifetime guarantee. So again, they're not trying to compete on price. If you want a case for £20, you can get one. You probably pay a couple £100 for that case on the screen, but comes with a lifetime guarantee. So they're putting that as their USP. So discover what it is that actually makes you stand out from your competition. So durability is a really good one. So a bit of a checklist for you today. Like I say, I deliberately keep these fairly short. It's really just to get your brain thinking about where do I sit in the market and what do I need to do. First of all, really understand your audience. That is key. Who is your target market? What do they talk? What are they interested in? This is the basis of all marketing, is understanding who buys from you or who you want to serve, even better than they know themselves. And it's not just down to demographics. It's important to understand, age, location, things like that. But what pain points do they have, and how do they solve them? The supermarket, actually, the pain point is we want to reduce our outgoings, so they're the cheapest. With the Pelly cases, that lifetime guarantee of being able to protect important equipment is really key. And I guess Netflix, the entertainment, but that, you can watch it anywhere, but you can cancel at any time is a really great USP. So make sure you know your audience. Make sure your visuals match where you want to be positioned. You saw in that early example, if you want to compete with some of those, what do I use? Soap, wasn't it? Those nice soaps you see in a nice high-end hotel. If you want to compete with them, your visuals need to match. And I spoke with a guy who runs a vegan cheese business, and actually he's a graphic designer. And within 6 months of launching their cheese, they got into Fortnum and Mason. And he's convinced it's to do with the fact that he designed all the labels. He really put a lot of effort into making sure this product looked fantastic, so that next to every other competitor, it would really stand out. He didn't want to just stick a cheap label on it. He really went to town on the visuals with that. Have a strong story that connects with your audience. What is your why? Tell a story. Make people part of the story. Try and use them as the case study. Storytelling is a real superpower. But you need a hero and a villain generally. Now, remembering that the villain is the problem that the person needs to overcome. The hero is actually your customer. Your customer's the hero. You're just the bridge in between those. You're the guide. They often use the sort of like Batman things. Alfred the butler's the the guide between the hero and the villain. That's where your business sits. You're there just to help someone overcome their problem, but your customer, they're the real hero. And have some sort of USP that separates you. You know, have a real think about it. And it can literally be almost anything. You know, that yeah, everyone thinks that yeah, you don't have to compete on price. You don't have to compete on durability. You know, find something that sets you apart. And there will be something. And it could even be down, certainly on small businesses, down to you as the owner. What's your background? Why are you running this business? What's your passion? You know, people buy into that actually, you know, the idea of, you know, almost completely faceless corporate businesses. Actually, a lot of us love businesses with a person behind them who's got a story to tell. So that's all I've got for you today.